please help me welcome Debbie Bianucci from BAI.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Most of the innovation that we see that is sexy and high visibility tends to focus on the consumer. But one of the trends that we're starting to see is that in our industry, there's a lot more innovation that's happening that focuses on the business side. And you'll hear me talk about small business today, but by that I mean business banking, and you're going to see there's more of a continuum than there has been in the past. It's really important to what you do. This is such a competitive business, and if you can innovate effectively, it can really start to differentiate in powerful ways that you might not have otherwise been able to do. And some of the most progressive innovation that we've seen is actually outside of the US. There are reasons for that you know well, but some interesting approaches that I'm going to try and share with you today. So what I'm going to do will be a little bit like speed dating because we only have a half an hour. But I'm going to talk first about why we think innovation matters and just give you some context for why we think it is important. And then I'm going to give you some examples of some high-impact innovation. What I'd like to do is to give you some examples of what we would consider to be high-impact innovation. These give you some ideas about new ways to solve problems that would allow for differentiation in the marketplace. And we see 4 key trends that are important that I'm going to cover with a few examples for each. What I also want to say, though, is that we find as we work with banks around the country, particularly in the US, that innovation is scary. It's scary for a lot of reasons. It's hard, it's risky, it's expensive, it's time-consuming, and all of that is in a regulatory environment that puts a lot of handcuffs on what we think and are able to do. So we're going to talk about how to approach that and how some organizations are doing that. So let me take you to the 4 trends that we see that we think are the ones that are really going to transform this industry and change it for the better as it relates to small business. The first trend is solutions that would improve and speed up access to financing. The second is payment-related, payment streamlining. The third is the use of analytics and being able to bring advice to customers. And the fourth would be those unique services that are targeted to a unique niche that gives the banks a differentiated value. So let's go to Turkey first. Turkey is interesting because there is a tremendous amount of innovation happening in that country that is quite invisible to most of the world. The first example that I want to share with you is DenizBank, which is one of the banks that we've recognized in multiple years. They have an innovation of culture that is hard to match. The fast loan to micro businesses is something that they've put in place, and if you think about the environment that they're in, it has been incredibly unique to be able to have online applications for business customers with a 2-minute response, with alternatives to fulfillment that greatly speed up the receipt of the loan for the customer. The second example in this category that I wanted to share with you is actually in the US, so I violated, Nick, a little bit what you asked me to do. But I think this one is interesting. It's Nusenda Credit Union in Albuquerque, New Mexico, which has created a co-op capital micro-lending combined with community sponsors to be able to widen access to capital to entrepreneurs, particularly low-income entrepreneurs who might have some credit issues or might have insufficient collateral in a traditional sense. So this organization, the credit union, put a program in place that allowed community organizations to essentially sponsor startup and entrepreneurial companies, while Nusenda originated the loan. And I have a short video that I'd like to show you that will help illustrate what they've done.
Asymmetry Credit Union created Co-op Capital, a collaborative financial product that combines micro-lending and community sponsors to widen access to capital usually out of reach for low-income entrepreneurs. Member organizations such as co-ops, unions, or associations sponsor a loan on behalf of one of their member affiliates. Asymmetry Credit Union anticipates originating at least 50 new loans in the next fiscal year to this target population.
One of the reasons we like this example is because a lot of time we think that the only organizations that can really innovate in this environment are the large ones, and this is a small organization that did some very interesting and creative things. There very much is more to it than just what the large banks can do. The second category is in streamlining payments. And in this space, you can see a lot of what's happening on the consumer side, but I'd like to give you a couple of examples of what's happened on the business side. So let's go to Poland. Idea Bank is a bank that created a program called Idea Factor 24, which was Poland's first system to improve cash flow for business customers, mostly small business customers, that enables the sale of receivables without a lot of the more complicated banking procedures that companies typically have to go through, all available with mobile access, computer, tablet, and smartphone. They also have a mobile delivery, mobile ATM for small businesses that is a secure multifunctional ATM that is in a BMW that is driven by employees to the customer where they can conduct their business. And I have a short video just to show that it really is in a BMW.
My business is my passion. Running it, I value comfort and security. Again, by introducing the first mobile CDM, Idea Bank has met my expectations. This innovative service was developed specifically for us, entrepreneurs. All it takes is a dedicated mobile app installed on a smartphone or tablet, and a bookable CDM arrives at the chosen spot when I find it most convenient. As a result, my money is safely delivered to the bank, and I gain time for carrying out my own purposes. Idea Bank, the first mobile CDM.
The third category is data analytics, and the use of analytics combined with advice from the bank to strengthen relationships and to differentiate the banks. And the example that I'd like to use there was actually showcased yesterday afternoon in one of the sessions here. SizeUp, which is based here in the US but does business around the world, is really dedicated to providing business intelligence to banks and credit unions that they can provide to their small business customers. It's information like demographics, business trends, competitive analysis that allows the bank to help their customers get information that they might not otherwise be able to get at on their own. And it's delivered in a very cool and easy to use dashboard format that makes a real difference in the way that a small company, particularly a startup company, would be able to understand the markets that they're in. And I said this was going to be a little bit like speed dating. It feels like we're racing through it, but the final trend is finding ways to uniquely serve a niche with unique services or products that are designed specifically for a niche. And for this one, I'd like to start by going to South Africa, which has an example with a collaborative effort between West Bank FNB and the Vumela Development Fund, which is connected to FNB, and Uber. This is a solution that empowers Uber drivers to be able to own their own vehicles. So this bank has had a long history of being a market leader in auto financing. And what they did was try to take that strength that they had and tie it specifically to this particular segment, the Uber drivers, which not only helps those who are currently Uber drivers, but it creates jobs, opportunities for people who want to be Uber drivers because it makes it easier for them to get into it. And if you think about the environment there, the job creation is an incredibly important part of the role that the bank plays. So I have a video that I'd like you to see that shows how this works.
We're extremely excited and extremely passionate about the difference we can make in South Africa.
From a Westbank perspective, we are very excited and privileged to be partnering with Uber on this very exciting journey.
We like to say we connect people to their cities, and on the driver side, Uber acts as lead generation software, enabling them to scale and grow their businesses in a way that they couldn't before.
It's just that opportunity to build your way up and set up your own little business.
We have worked very closely with Uber, and we have developed a deep understanding of the financial viability of being an owner-driver within their network. So we know already what sort of mileage they do, what sort of rates they will be earning on that mileage. Westbank has been the leading vehicle finance provider in South Africa now for over 60 years, and we like to think that we have innovated consistently all throughout this journey in order to remain the market leader in South Africa.
Westbank is a perfect partner in that they are that innovator player in the market who are willing to look differently. And as Uber globally, this is one of the most exciting solutions that we bring to the market. Uber becomes a local and global engine for job creation.
We've come up with a novel solution, and I think we've innovated on a number of fronts. We now match the depreciation of the vehicle, which is another word for the usage of the vehicle, with the amortization of the rental agreement. So they're now, as you can see in the two lines, they're now very close together. And the theory is very simple. If the driver uses it with lots and lots of kilometers, obviously the vehicle depreciates faster. And likewise, if the vehicle is not used a lot, then the rentals can be lower because obviously all the variable costs are lower. So this ties in perfectly with the mechanism that we have put in place with Uber.
The technology is really about empowering these entrepreneurs who are small business owners to really scale and grow their businesses.
So let's go to Italy. This is another example of a unique service that Intesa San Paolo brought to the market. And essentially what it does is it matches their large legacy corporate customers who are buyers of services with a network of very small startups. And the bank becomes central so that their traditional clients who need to buy services are matched up efficiently with startups that they might not have otherwise ever known. And they've been very successful in being able to bring value to both, because the larger customers are looking for ways to get the kinds of products and services that they want to buy. The smaller customers are looking for ways to increase their sales. And so with the bank at the center of that, it's quite unique. So we've been to Turkey, Poland, Italy, South Africa. And we've talked about why innovation matters and some of the high impact innovation that we've seen and recognized through the Global Banking Innovation Awards and FinTech Forward companies to watch. What I'd like to do as we bring the session to a close is to talk again about why innovation is scary to us. I talk to bankers all the time who want to do new and different things. They're looking for ways to partner with fintech companies. They're trying to find ways to do what they can do to best serve their customers. But it's hard, it's risky. You have a lot of expense. And in a regulatory environment where some believe that it actually handcuffs you in ways that you simply cannot take the risk to do new and different things in this environment. Innovation doesn't come naturally. You have to build a culture of innovation. And in an environment where we have so many financial constraints and regulatory constraints, it's really hard to do that. And so it sort of generates a fear. There's a fear of failure. There's a fear of looking bad, a fear of putting the bank at risk, or even losing your job if you miss it. And so organizations that we've seen that have been able to create an environment where they can reduce the fear, then they are more successful in being able to generate ideas. And that's much easier said than done. We think innovation really matters. And when you look at business banking, the importance of being able to differentiate with different solutions to solve these problems can really make the difference. It certainly moves the needle in the way that we see how banks are performing in the small business space. But to innovate, we have to think differently. We have to change our attitudes toward failure and mistakes, and have a culture that accepts failure, which is incredibly hard to do. Even if you have a concept of fail fast and cheap, which allows you to have test and learn to try and get out there and do things. And as Eleanor Roosevelt said, I really believe you have to do the things that you think you cannot do. You have to push yourself out of a comfort zone and address your fears. My fear is bridges. I don't like driving on bridges, which is why Florida is a hard place for me to come. I avoid them. And I certainly wouldn't walk on a bridge until I took a trip to Sydney this summer. See the people at the top of that bridge? Well, that's me and my family. We went and walked the Sydney Harbour Bridge. We were at the top of that thing. We were all tied in, by the way. I'm having some fun with you because this is sort of a silly fear. It happens to be my fear. But I want you to think about the fears that you have in your organization and the things that you think are insurmountable because of the circumstances that you're in and what you may or may not be able to do in terms of innovation. And I'd like to take you back to Turkey. And I'd ask you to think about the environment in the Middle East and the market that the Turkish banks are in, the turbulence that they face, and in particular, the attitudes toward women. Globally, 40% of micro businesses are owned by women, started and owned by women. It's only 10% in Turkey. In fact, Turkey has the highest rate of unemployed female college graduates in all of the world. So they're in an environment that's particularly tough to begin with, and with women in particular. So TEB, which is Turkish Economy Bank, wanted to differentiate and strengthen their presence with women-owned small businesses with a program they called Women Banking. It's the first and only bank in Turkey to have a separate department for women's banking services, and it's mostly for business. They have women academies, a women's support line, a women's TV channel, access to mentors, and other networks to connect women together. All in an environment where this is not necessarily politically correct. So it has taken some great courage on their part to find ways to target this niche and to do it in a meaningful way. And I have a short video that I would like to show you that illustrates what they've done.
Yaşam, dokunduğu her şeyi güzelleştiren insanlara ihtiyaç duyar. Ben de buradayım diyenlere. Dünyaya meydan okuyanlara. Fark yaratanlara. En çok da kadınlara. Çünkü bir kadın her şeyden önce üretkendir. Yaratıcılığıyla dünyada ses getirecek güce sahiptir. Cesurdur, ilk olmaktan asla çekinmez. Öncü olur, tutkusu için savaşır. Adını göklere yazacak kadar azimlidir. Başarısıyla dünya tarihini etkiler. Her işiyle kalplere dokunur. Yeteneğiyle akıllara kazanır. Aydınlığıyla tüm dünyaya örnek olur. Aklına koyduğu her şeyi yapacak güçtedir. Yalnızca evinin değil, işinin de patronu olabilecek disipline sahiptir. Bir hayata sayısız hikaye sığdırabilir. Hatta her hikayenin kahramanı olabilir. Çünkü yaşamın kendini güzelleştiren bir kadına ihtiyacı olduğu gibi bir kadının da güzelleştireceği bir yaşama ihtiyacı vardır. Biz de bu yüzden buradayız. Daima sizin yanınızdayız. Siz sadece içinizdeki gücü keşfedin. Gerisini bize bırakın. TEB, Kadınların Danışman Bankası.
So that takes courage. In the environment that they're in, to position the bank in such a visible way. That's actually TV advertising that they run in the market. So my inspiration there is to try and bring back to others in our country to find ways that whatever your constraints are, that you look differently at the way you can tackle them and find ways to innovate. Because innovation matters. It differentiates you. It will fuel your growth. It's exciting and scary all at the same time. And it can really make a difference for you. Our commitment at BAI is to provide the kind of comparative analytics and other research and services that we can bring to the table to help you see, both on the small business side as well as in technology innovation. So it's been a pleasure for me to have the opportunity to be with you this morning and to share some of these ideas. Source Media will have the presentation. It's available to you. And there's much more detail around any of these ideas that we'd be happy to share with you at any point. So thank you very much.